to the Heirloom Library. I'm so glad you could join me today. I hope you have a comfy chair and can sit down and maybe have a cup of tea or some coffee. And we're going to talk about a book called Right Now. And it's Mastering the Beauty of the Present Moment by Steve Chandler. I thought it'd be kind of fun to look into some things that maybe are hindering our progress. I know sometimes that it's certainly, this is something that happens to me. So anyway, this was written in 2017 and it was actually published by a friend of ours, Maurice Bassett. So right now, what does that mean to you right now? It's immediate. It's something that we need to do at the moment, not in the future, obviously not in the past. So I'm going to read a couple of chapters that I think are enlightening, I believe, and certainly help me, and I hope maybe they might help you if you seem to be a little stuck. It says, your life doesn't transform by consuming insights, but by testing them. That's a quote from Jason Goldberg. What kind of future was I thinking of? It took me a while to realize that the future is right now. I'll never forget learning this from a mentor who saw that my life was stuck in neutral. You can go, he would say. The light has changed, he would point out. And of course, he meant the light in my heart. It had changed. I would be talking to him about something I'd always wanted to do someday, and he would say, you could do that right now. And I then became pretty excited to see that it was true. Soon I started saying that to myself. You could do that right now. If I had a fleeting yearning to learn Spanish, I would just say, you could do that right now. And I'd immediately look up the Spanish word for something and I would write it on my whiteboard and say it out loud the next morning. What I hadn't realized before was that we were mentally creating barriers to do that. We don't notice that there's more than one kind of future. One kind has the power to disappoint by never being fulfilled. But then there's another kind, a better kind of future. The better future is the one that I can start working on right now. I can bite into it this instant, like biting into a stalk of bright yellow corn on the cob. It's the kind of future I can sink my teeth into immediately. The future called right now. It's not that lonely, stranded future out there, the one I only think about and heave big sighs over. No, that one is full of vain hope and sad longing. It's a lost dream, lost at the moment of its first projection. Once I thought of writing a whole book about the beauty of the moment. Then I thought, I'd have to wait until I was spiritually enlightened to do it. But then I realized that I didn't have to wait for that. I could do it right now. And on to the next chapter. When people question the apparent past, they lose their future. The present moment, that's when we're born. That's a quote from Brian Cady. Where's the future coming from? Wiener Eckhart teaches about how to create a life path that works. He talks about creating a future from the future, not from the past. What does that mean? I'll say what it means for me when I first heard it well enough to use it. It means that most people, including me, and even most companies, plan their future based on the past. They take the past and try to make a future out of it. That's kind of true, huh? I know that, we're always looking, sometimes we're looking backwards too much instead of forward. It's like feverishly beating a dead horse. What? Get up, run. They would say they were just looking to the past for guidance. But then they put the past on a table in front of them and stare at it and ask themselves, well, now how can I make this 10% or 20% better? So the past is like a lump of clay that is being shaped a little and added to a little, maybe even baked and glazed a little, but it is still the past. So when I do it this traditional way, my future is still in the past. All I can ever have is slightly newer, slightly better past, but it's still the past. Do you see this? That's called creating the future from the past. It's a remake. It's a sequel, but it's not fresh and new. Life soon becomes a cover band, not the real thing. Like those casino showrooms that have tribute bands playing a whole evening of Pink Floyd or Jimi Hendrix or Journey. There's nothing new and exciting. It is relying on attendees pulling up old emotional memories and trying to nostalgically feed them again. But what if I choose not to do that? What if I choose to create my future based on a totally invented picture of the future? Something I've never done. Something no one's ever done. Like the hit show Hamilton instead of just a remake of Oklahoma. This is a future created in the present moment, right now. You know, I think that for me, anyway, has a lot of truth to it. I think so many times we look at the future, what I want to do, but we always seem to have barriers. Well, I don't have enough knowledge. I don't have enough friends. I don't have enough connections. We always seem to be able to have this excuse that we can't really venture into the future because we're not ready. And that's, when you think about it, that's a huge holdup, isn't it? It's like, well, why aren't we ready? Or will we ever be ready? And I think that the talk about the past, that is true. I think the past is important from the standpoint of the life lessons that we've learned. We all make mistakes. And one nice thing about the past is it's like, okay, I've been there, done that. Don't want to repeat those mistakes, which is good. I think that part is really good. And of course, we always have fond memories of different parts of our past. And I think that's good. But it shouldn't determine our future. I'd like to share something that I was kind of forced into the future to do. As some of you are aware, we have a whole children's series of Santa's Elf series, children's books. And for years and years, the stories were written, but we were struggling to try and find a illustrator to bring the stories to life. And we never could seem to do that. Either they wouldn't respond back to a query, or they took an inordinately amount of time to respond back, or it just wasn't what we had in mind as far as the illustration went. And I think partly out of frustration, my husband said to me, well, you do it. And I said, well, I don't draw. I don't, I'm not an artist. I'm not, and I wasn't. I wasn't, sitting there doodling any kind of artistic things, not cartoons or anything like that, He said, well, no, you can do it. You've got an artistic flair. It's a children's book. I'm not asking you to. We have a very good friend that is a wonderful watercolor artist. And he said, I'm not asking you to do, what Brenda does. He said, it's a children's book. You can do this. And so he went out and he bought me colored pencils and a sketch pad, and yeah, just go ahead. Well, all of a sudden there it was, and he was after me. He said, no, you do it. So I tried, picked up the pencils and tried on the paper, and I couldn't draw a stick figure. Nothing came. For me personally, I then went to the computer and took my mouse, and I was able to then start drawing. Maybe because I was just so familiar with the computer environment. It was more comfortable to me than just handing me a sketch pad and a pencil, which I never used. So I guess maybe that was a bit of the barrier. This is Jamie Hardrock. This is the first book that I illustrated. Show you just a couple of pictures here. This is, and Jamie was our chief mining elf. He used to mine for coal up at the North Pole, and now he's got rock candy. And that's the first page. And let me show you Jamie. And here's Jamie. Now, like with a lot of things, the fact that I was able to do it all was surprising to me, that's for sure. I mean, because, when you're illustrating a book, I was taking my husband's poem, because it's all in rhyme, and putting a picture to the words, which is not always that easy to do. And, looking at this now, in some ways, I cringe a little bit and think, oh my gosh, look at some of that. Because there was a lot of things that I learned over time to enhance, my drawing and make it better. And of course, once you do one, then the other gets to be a whole lot easier. We actually had the first book in this series was done by an illustrator, but subsequently the next 6 I illustrated. I also illustrated our wonderful book, the Christmas Eve Journey, and others as well. So that was truly an experience of the future is now. Because if it had been left up to me, if I had done it at all, I think I would have said, oh, well, let's see, I better take lessons, I better do this, I better do that. And I goodness only knows how long I would have felt myself ready to actually illustrate a book. But because Joe was on me and saying, no, we got to get this out. We've waited years. We need to get these books out. And I couldn't disagree that it forced my hand. But at the same token, now I'm an illustrator. I wasn't before. And if you'd asked me if that was a dream or a thought in my head, no, it wasn't. But I'm glad I did. So I think that's a good explanation to sometimes you need to get out of that comfort zone. And as Steve said, sometimes you just need to do it. You just need to be in the moment and not look and say, well, what is lacking in you, or what do I need to do something? Just start it. Just start it. Today is the day. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Behind the Scenes. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of our other YouTube channel of the Heirloom Library. And, hope you'll subscribe and join me for the next one. And I hope you enjoyed this. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much.